What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and as you all can see from the title of today's video, we're making a tier list. We are selling out to the YouTube gods, and we're ranking all of the assault class primary weapons from best to worst, worst to best, however you want to put it. These rankings are based purely upon my own opinion, so feel free to disagree with me down below and let me know where I pissed you off, because any engagement is good engagement. On top of that, I will be able to give you guys some stats because I have some of them memorized. I've done too many videos on this game at this point. But this is going to be completely unscripted, all just off the top of my head, how I feel when I hear the names of these guns. With that out of the way, guys, let's get right into the video. Alright, we're going to do this by tiers from worst to best. So starting off in the E tier, the guns that can quite frankly be deleted from the game and I don't think anyone would care, I would actively celebrate. The only one I have for the assault class is the RSC SMG. Now in theory, the RSC SMG shouldn't be that bad. It's got a pretty decent time to kill from close range, does a lot of damage per bullet, so you'd think it should be able to extend itself a little bit further than other assault options. It can't. It simply can't, for two reasons. Its recoil is so ridiculously high that I can be 2 meters away from a guy, shoot the gun, right? The first bullet, it hits, it's thudded into his chest. Unfortunately though, the recoil is so high, the second bullet is going this way, and then the third one's going that way, and then the fourth one's going that way. It is so difficult to keep on target that by the time you manage to land everything, you feel like you're Jesus Christ. The vast majority of the encounters from more than point blank range to medium range, you're missing at least 1 to 2 bullets in the magazine. And its fire rate is so slow, if they have any sort of competent close range weapon, you are dead in that time period. You're out. You've lost. On top of that, even if you do get the kill, you're going to have sustained some damage, more than likely. And because you've missed a couple bullets and it takes at least 3 bullets to kill if all hit, you need a reload. But the reload is not fast. You'd think with only 8 rounds it'd be a quick reload. No, it's about a 3 to 4 second reload animation. And you're basically taking yourself out of the fight after every single fight because you have to reload. But the weapon isn't consistent enough to warrant its use to play around that reload. It's just, the RSC sucks. The RSC SMG honestly is terrible. Use it if you want to screw around and piss off some enemies. Like, people get really mad when you kill them with it. It's kind of funny. But unless you're going for that, just don't bother. Just don't bother. You're not gonna have a good time. Moving on to the D tier, the guns I think they can be pretty fun, but they're just not good. They're below average. They're pretty bad, but they can be fun to use. Now the first one on this list, I have the 12G automatic. The 12G automatic is the only shotgun that cannot one-shot from close range. Even if every single pellet hits from point blank range, you do something like 95 damage and you will not get the kill. That alone makes it worse than every other shotgun in the game. Some may argue that this is balanced out by its fire rate, but if I have a shotgun, I want to be able to kill someone from point blank range in a single shot. That is the purpose of my shotgun, particularly when every single other shotgun in the game can do that. Now, while the extended variant in particular does offset it a little bit with increased magazine capacity, etc., it's not one-shotting anyone. It's going to take at least 2 bullets. You can play well with it. It can be fun, especially if you're not playing other shotgun users and you're playing in close range. But the second someone else pulls out a shotgun, or one of the extremely high DPS SMGs like the Automatico and the Annihilator, you're probably going to lose. And it's that simple. It doesn't outperform anything else in its class, so therefore it's got to sit in the D tier. On top of that as well, we also have the sawed-off shotgun. Now, the sawed-off shotgun, unlike the 12G, can one-shot from close range. However, it only has 2 rounds, because it's a double-barrel shotgun, and its range is atrocious because it's a sawed-off. Like, even shotguns in general don't have the greatest range in the world, but the sawed-off, you may as well be shooting peas from anything past 8 meters. Its damage drop-off range is so steep, and its spread is actually really wide when compared to everything else, so it just, once again, it cannot compete with the other shotguns in its own class. Which is to be expected. It was originally included in the game as a tanker pilot weapon, but was placed in the assault class after the weapons crate update towards the end of the game's life cycle. But it's fun, it's just not good. That simple. Now moving on to our C tier, these are the guns that, they're pretty average. She's kind of mid, bro. She's 5 out of 10. That's where we're sitting with these. The first weapon on this list I have is the From a Stop Auto. Now, I really like the From a Stop. The From a Stop is a lot of fun to use. It's just, when you compare it to the other fast-firing, super high close-range DPS SMGs that it's sort of meant to compete with, it doesn't really compete. Its bullet velocity is a lot slower. While its fire rate is equal to the Automaticos, it does less damage per bullet. Its damage drop-off is a lot steeper. It's just basically, it's inferior to all of the other rapid, close-range SMG types. I know it's a pistol carbine, but it's meant to compete with your Automaticos, your Annihilators, your Machine pistols. It's statistically inferior, which once again it is supposed to be because it was originally designed to be a tanker pilot weapon. It wasn't really meant to be used. It's only meant to be used if your tank or your plane got shot out of the sky and you're forced to come and fight people. It can still be really fun. It's just, yeah, it's not that great. Next up, we have the M1917 carbine. Now, a couple months ago, I was of the opinion that this would have been in the D tier. However, after playing around with it a bit, I am not quite that harsh on it anymore. It's a lot of fun to use, quite frankly. That's the general theme of the assault class. Almost every gun can be fun, except the RSC SMG. But their effectiveness is really outshined by everything above it in the list, because the power creep in the assault class is kind of insane. The M1917 carbine is a semi-automatic weapon with 41 rounds in its magazine. It's a 4-shot kill at best, and while it is really fun to sit there and spam things, unless you are literal Jesus, your trigger finger ain't gonna be able to outspam the stuff at close range. And from medium range, where it does have its probably most success compared to everything else in the assault class, I would just straight up prefer an MP18 or a Hellregal, or even an SMG-08, and most definitely a Ribeye Rolls. Like, there is just so many things that outclass it at what it's meant to do that I can't justifiably put it any higher. It's kind of average. It's kind of average. Next up, we got the Machine pistol M1912P16. Now, the experimental version of this, with a 2-round burst, highest fire rate in the entire game, is super fun. It's heaps cool. Is it great? No, it's pretty poo. It's not good. But it's really fun. It's cool to use. Then as for its Storm variant, once again, same issue as the From a Stop. I'd just rather be using an Automatico or an Annihilator, because its reload speed is atrocious, only has 16 rounds in the mag, you've got to reload in between every single kill. Its hipfire spread is decent considering it's a Storm variant, and its time to kill is blazing fast, of course, but as soon as you've got to stretch out any further, its bullet velocity is awful, its damage drop-off is pretty steep. All in all, I would just prefer to be using an Automatico or an Annihilator. It's that simple. Now, the Model 1900 is basically, it's the sawed-off shotgun, but its barrel is longer. It has all of the same weaknesses as the sawed-off, except I think its spread is a little tighter, and its range is quite a bit better, actually, because the barrel is so much longer. It still only has 2 rounds in the magazine. Its fire rate is pretty quick, so if you don't kill the person in one shot, you can get the second shot off really quickly and make sure they're dead. The only issue is you only have the 2 rounds, and with a shotgun, you are pushing people to try and get aggressive. You're getting close to people, and when you're close to someone, more than likely they are going to have a friend, considering this is Battlefield. There's squads, there's 32 people on a server. 9 times out of 10, when you are playing aggressive, you're fighting more than one person at once. And because of that, basically, in best case scenario, the Model 1900 will get rid of 2 people. Then you're going to have to rely on your secondary. It's fun to use. It can be extremely effective, particularly if you're good at picking your engagements. There are just better options. The shotguns above this are better. It's that simple. Finally, the last weapon I have in our C tier, the kind of mid tier, is the Shogun and the Shogun, that we're going to call it the SI. The SI. Now, the SI, its weaknesses are actually a lot different from the other shotguns we've discussed. It's sort of, the way I think of it is it's good at everything, but it's the master of none. Jack of all trades, master of none. It has, I think, 5 rounds in the magazine for the factory version. It's got pretty decent range, it's got decent damage drop-off, it's got decent one-shot kill capabilities, it's got pretty decent fire rate. Overall, it's pretty good. However, if you want a fast-firing, good close-range shotgun, you're going to lean towards the M97. If you want something with a shotgun with good range and good ammo capacity that's very consistent across all of the ranges you'd expect a shotgun to be consistent, you go the Model 10A. And then if you're leaning towards a slug variant, never use the Shogun inertial slug. It is god-awful. It does not have the capability to one-shot at any range. You will need a 2-shot across any range unless you hit a headshot. And even then, I think it can only headshot up to something like 30-ish meters, which is terrible. Especially when you consider the 10A slug is basically a sniper rifle, and the Model 1900 slug is the same thing, just without sights. Look. The slug lowers the Shogun inertial so much, and its factory version is just... It's good. It's good at everything, but it's not great at anything, and because of that, I can't put it any higher. Now we're going to go to our B tier, the Nicolas Cage-esque weapons for the assault class. And I've only actually got 2 in this category. The first one, which is probably the one that a lot of people are going to disagree with me and say that it should be higher, is the Hellriegel 1915. Now, upon release of the game, the Hellriegel was incredible. For the first year of the game's life cycle, the Hellriegel was incredible. However, over time, it slowly got a couple nerfs along the way to things like ADS speed, reload time, and I think its damage per bullet was actually put down by like 1 or 2 at some point as well. And on top of that, more guns were introduced, and older guns got buffed to the point that slowly got power crept out of its top gun position, in my opinion at least. Is it still good? Yes, you can slay with the Hellriegel. I am particularly a massive fan of the defensive. I think it's really underrated. But at the same time, other guns have been improved and made better to the point that it's not my first pick anymore. I would much rather take something that I've placed above this weapon than the Hellriegel. You can still be really effective, it's still a lot of fun, it's just not on the same A to S tier that I think it used to be. The only other gun in my B tier is the M97 trench gun. Now the M97 trench gun is sort of what you'd want the Shogun inertial to be, the SI to be. It's a consistent one-shot kill from I think up to 12 meters, and it fires ridiculously fast. You can get 2 shots off with this thing really quick. And on top of that, if you like full auto capability like the Model 1900 offers, M97 trench gun offers that too. It is essentially the M97 has a little bit less range than the Model 1900, but has 3 more shells in its maximum ammo capacity at a single time. Its reload is faster than the Model 1900 for singular shells, and on top of that, it still performs fairly reasonably over extended ranges. It's not quite as consistent as the Model 10A, but if you just want something to, say you're on Argonne Forest or Fort de Vaux, and all you're doing is you're just like, screw it, I'm just gonna push a corner, fire off all of the shells, and then let myself die. The M97 is gonna get you at least 1 to 2 kills if that's how you want to play. Because the shells get fired off that quickly that people can't react, and they do so much damage at that close range that you're gonna get something out of it. You can very easily go positive playing this way. It's just I have to leave it down in the B tier because there is one other gun in its class that everyone knows about. You've heard me say it a lot of other times. It just outperforms it. I just think it's better. But make no mistake, the M97 is still fucking terrifying. Alright, A tier. Top tier wood smash weapons. I have 4. The assault class is very top dominant, and the next 6 guns you'll see between A and S are basically what everyone runs at this point in the game. The first one is the Automatico M1918. I am going to get a lot of hate for this, but hear me out first. The Automatico and the Annihilator are 2 of the highest DPS weapons in the game. However, the Annihilator is better, which is why I'll actually reveal it in S tier now. I think the Annihilator is better than the Automatico. Why? Mathematically, the Annihilator actually has a higher DPS than the Automatico, by a pretty sizable amount. I can't remember the exact measurement because I don't have it in front of me. This video isn't scripted, but I know that there's a difference. I believe it's almost 1/10 of a second, which, when you're working with weapons with this high fire rate, this high DPS, is quite a bit. On top of that, in my opinion, the Annihilator performs better over range because of its higher damage per bullet and slightly lower fire rate, which makes it a little bit easier to handle when you have to spread yourself out to that mid-range. Is the Automatico still incredible? Yes, it's in the A tier. Basically, the toss-up between the Annihilator and the Automatico most of the time comes down to feel, how you feel with the weapon. But in just my experience, I feel more comfortable with the Annihilator, and statistically, the Annihilator is better. That's it. Feel free to disagree with me on this one. Like, I am perfectly fine if you think the Automatico is S tier and the Annihilator's A tier. Like, they're basically the same weapon, except for some very, in the grand scheme of things, minute differences. But when you are playing against a really good player, those minute differences can be massive. So I have to put the Automatico A tier. Next one is the Model 10A. I've already basically said why this thing is A tier across the other shotguns. It's the most consistent shotgun. It annihilates everything from 0 to like 14 meters in one shell. Its spread is pretty tight, and honestly, this thing is kind of broken even nowadays on certain maps. It's not as broken as it used to be. Like, way back in the day, this thing was a sniper rifle in its normal hunter version. It was ridiculous the ranges you could one-shot with this thing. It's been toned down a lot since then, but it is still broken, absolutely stupidly good on maps like Argonne Forest and Fort de Vaux. If you are running this gun on those maps, I would be expecting you to get at least 50 kills in a Conquest game. If you're not doing that, I am thoroughly disappointed. And that's not even talking about how good the slug is, because the slug used to be terrible, but has been buffed so many times at this point that it is basically it's stupidly good. It's like the M95 for the scout class, so super fast fire rate, one-shot headshot across almost all ranges, but it can still one-shot at close range. So you can treat it like a shotgun, and then treat it like a sniper carbine at range. It is ridiculous. It is crazy. But overall, for the majority of players, I'd still say it's A tier, because to get the most out of it, you do need to be a little bit skilled at the game. You need to have some map knowledge, you need to understand flanking routes. Shotguns in general, to be highly successful with them across all maps, you do need to be a little bit better at the game than most players. So I'm going to leave it at A tier. Next one is the MP18. MP18 is... It's sort of like how I discussed the Shogun Inertial. It is the jack of all trades, master of none. The only issue is, with the MP18, it is slightly better than average at everything. Honestly, the MP18 compared to all other SMGs is basically, it has B tier on every single stat, but because it is that consistent at every single stat, it's not B tier anymore. Like, it's bullet velocity, B tier. Mid-range performance, B tier. Close range killing potential, B tier. Magazine capacity, B tier. But when you put all of these factors together, it turns into a gun that you can basically succeed no matter what with this weapon. It's got almost no recoil whatsoever. If you run the trench variant, the hipfire may as well be better than your ADS. And it fires at a decent enough pace that you can compete with everything. It's just... You can't even call it a jack of all trades, master of none. It's basically the jack of all trades, master of being the jack of all trades. It's just great. It does everything you'd want from an SMG. There's nothing else I can say. Finally, the last weapon in our A tier is the Roubaix Rolls 1918. I'm not sure how to pronounce that one either. I'm sorry, all my military historians. I can't speak English. The Roubaix Rolls, the Ribby Rolly, is really one of only 2 true assault rifles in the game. It is fairly decent at close range. It has a lot of muzzle flash, which can be difficult to get over at first. However, where this gun truly excels is pushing that close range to mid to long range engagement for the assault class. This weapon can be kinda crazy in the right hands. Its close range killing potential is better than the MP18, but nowhere near as good as your Annihilators, your SMGs, but it's still serviceable enough to get you by and defeat the rest of the classes in the game. But it can still perform up to... Hell, with the bipod, you can push this thing up to 40-50 meters. Its muzzle velocity is around 700 meters per second, so it is going to take a bit of leading and a bit of careful aim. But this thing can push LMGs and self-loading rifles, and even some close-range snipers. Like, this honestly is... If you don't like the close-range playstyle of the assault, and you want to be able to stretch out a little further, just pick up the Roubaix Rolls, because you're gonna find success. Its fire rate and damage per bullet is good enough that you're gonna compete with everything. And I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but it's so good at these things for the class that it doesn't really have anything else in the class that competes with it. Sure, you could make the argument the M1917 also does similar things at mid-range, but the Roubaix Rolls fires faster and is fully auto and has a bipod to make sure you don't have any recoil. So it's just better. It's that simple. Alright, finally, we'll go on to the S tier. You guys have already heard me talk about the Annihilator, because it's better than the Automatico. I'm sorry, not. Final weapon in the class for our S tier. It doesn't even deserve a drum roll, because I'm sure you all knew what it was. It's the SMG 0818. This weapon is the definition of Hellregal power creep. It is the most AIDS-inducing, frustrating, easy-to-use weapon in all of Battlefield 1. You could literally give a new player who has never touched the Battlefield franchise, never played the game, is literally 0 on their service level, the SMG-0818, they will still find a way to top frag on every single map. The gun is that stupidly good. It has something like the 4th fastest fire rate in the game, with the highest magazine capacity across all weapons in the assault class, excluding the Hellregal defensive. It has very little recoil in reality once you learn to control it. It's basically, you tug down left, then you tug down right, then the weapon overheats after 35 rounds. It is not that difficult to control. Its muzzle velocity, while isn't the highest in the class, it's still serviceable enough that you can push it out to mid-range. And if the recoil is too much for you to control at mid-range, you can tap fire with this weapon, and I think it still only drops off to 21 damage per bullet, which means it's a 5-shot kill, and it's very easy to kill people at mid-range, especially other assault players, within a 5-shot kill. This weapon it's stupidly good. It is so mind-numbingly good that it's basically going to outcompete everything except an Automatico, an Annihilator, or a shotgun at extremely close range. And then everything from that slightly further close range to about mid-range, where you see the medic self-loading rifles really shine, it's going to outperform them. And because of that, you just basically, you hold W, you hold the W key, and then you hold left trigger, and you're going to get 50 kills. It's so easily used, so frustrating to go against, that honestly, I've probably rage quit more games because of guys that were clearly so unskilled at the game. They were just pushing such stupid things, but because they had the SMG-08, they kept beating everyone in gunfights, and they had over 100 service stars with them. They'd be like level 50 with 100 service stars on the SMG-0818. It's just sad. There's no other way to put it. It's just sad. Alright guys, that is my list. Let me know down below if you agreed with my choices, or if you just think I'm a bumbling buffoon who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. I'm sure you'll let me know either way. If you liked the video, make sure to, of course, like the video. And if you are new around here and want to see more content like this, make sure you are subscribed with post notifications so you don't miss out when I drop similar lists to this on the Medic, Support, and Scout classes. With the obligatory YouTuber stuff out of the way, it's been Cole, guys. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your days, and I will see you next time. Peace out.